Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, and you see, I got my old background back. It kind of surprised me when I saw it come up there, which was a gift from members of the Libertarian Party of Wisconsin a few years ago. Hey, Justin, maybe we'll talk about some LP scuttlebutt in the beginning here. Probably not, because I want this to be, a little LP. Well, a lot LP. Is there anything that I do that's not a lot LP? Let's face it, I'm obsessed. But I want it to be a little bit different. 1 second, I need a sip of water. Okay, first of all, some of you may have come. Everything I'm going to say this show is going to be like double entendres, I think. Some of you may have come expecting something a little different from the title, but we're not doing...
Boom, chicka, wow, wow.
We're not doing that.
Objection, speculative.
We're always doing that. But this, I'm probably going to become quite reflective. Not like a mirror, just introspective. That's the word I'm looking for. In these coming weeks leading up to convention. Because so much has changed in my life. And some of this... Oh my God, let me put comments up because people aren't seeing this. You're going to need to, once I get this up, you're going to need to put, Justin, if you could repost your comment, because I want it on the stream, because I think that's freaking hilarious. And once you repost it, I'll read it aloud for those who are maybe not watching the video. And I think that would be an an excellent topic. So Justin said, can we talk about the irony of the corrupt LNC fighting over having a whistleblower as their speaker after purging a whistleblower? I wonder what Snowden would think of my case. Interesting. That whole situation has me very feeling in a really weird spot. Not in a weird spot like conflicts, right? I don't even know how to say it. I haven't sorted out my feelings over that whole thing yet. This show today is going to be one of those more personal ones that I'm sure my haters are going to love making fun of me for. And I don't care right now. I'm getting the tissues ready. Hopefully, whenever I have tissues ready, they're not needed. And I've got fake eyelashes on. So I hope definitely, and I got makeup on. So hopefully this will just be, me being able to talk without, JJ's here, so I'll probably cry. Inside joke. But I've become quite introspective. So there was a LNC candidate question and answer I was at a couple days ago. And those of you who know me well, one of my favorite sayings, we go through life, we have sayings that we like, proverbs. I do think they change over time. And if you keep saying the same one, when you were 20, you're probably not growing. And for a while, people know that besides I'll sleep when I'm dead, one of my favorite sayings is find what you love and let it kill you. That's kind of been the way I've lived my life. That might not be entirely a voluntary choice considering I have OCD and autism, which can make finding I consider it my superpower, but still, it gives you a focus. Let's just put it that way, which can be used productively or unproductively. And I think, I've been using it for the most part in my adulthood productively. So I was at this candidate Q&A. And, all the stuff comes up. I proactively, address what happened to me and what I know some people's concerns are, which I'll probably address in another video. And the people's concerns I'll address in another video. Do you just thrive on drama? No, I don't. Wayne knows. Long story. We'll save that for another day. But something Stephen Nikala said. So all the candidates were really feeding off each other, and it was great. And we were talking about messaging and, what this whole thing is really about. It's not these stupid games. What are we really in this for? What does the future look like? And Stephen Nikala, he said something I already knew, but you know how sometimes you could already know something, but at the time you learned it, it was more academic. It didn't really apply to you personally. It did, but, not the way some things do. And then, I didn't see what Ryan... Yeah, the meltdowns will continue until morality improves. I also have a little bit of ADHD, if you can't tell. And then you hear the same thing again, but it's after you've had some life experiences that have given you a whole new perspective, and you're like, whoa. Now, I appreciate all the compliments. I did my radio show earlier, which I do tend to put on makeup and all that for. But health-wise, the earlier, some people know the specifics. Everyone else just knows, a very vague, had a little health issue that went on earlier this week. I don't know all the answers yet. Still waiting on test results. It's nothing that's going to keep me from Reno. So I don't know how much hair of mine Jackie got, but she might have needed to get some more, because that's not going to happen. But in general, actually not feeling that great. But it's a lot of reasons, and a lot of it's stress. A lot of it's stress over everything that's happened. We're going to get, all of this is related to the topic. This is me being very just freeform, like I ever am not. I don't ever outline my shows or anything like that. I used to. Oh my God, I used to script everything. I had a teleprompter. Nah, not that anymore. But before we get started, we did start, but then we're going to start along the bottom there. Also, in show notes of other shows, because I haven't put it in the show notes here yet, that's how you can support my campaign. I hate when I get tongue-tied, and since COVID, it's been happening more and more, but it's getting better and better each day. The brain-mouth connection and typing and all of that, though, I still have some, it's getting better. It's getting much better, my coordination and everything. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the campaign. Yeah, we are in the final stretches, because I know you guys are tired of hearing me talk about this. Is the Beagle coming? Xena! Come here! Everyone doesn't know you! This is Xena, the warrior princess! Oh my God, I love this dog so much. Okay, you gotta go now. Well, you can hang around, but you can't stay on my lap. All right. Didn't think Xena was going to make an appearance. The warrior beagle. Scared of her own shadow. She's more like Joxer the Mighty than Xena, if any of you guys watch Xena. And my little dachshund's terrified to come down here in the basement. Okay. Sweetest dog I've ever had. You can sit down. Xena, you can sit here. Okay. We are in the last stages. And here's, again, not very many donors have asked for it, but I do have a campaign transparency worksheet. And, oh my God, well, Smoking Llama, I still am. But like, I was obsessed with Xena. I learned this show we're doing right now can be directly tied back to my Xena obsession. I'll tell you why. I wanted to make a Xena fan music vid, not of me doing it, but you know how people used to do those compilations of songs, of scenes, and put it to a song? And there were 2 Evanescence songs. I lost that other screen. Oh, there it goes. That I wanted to make Xena like fan vids to. So I learned how to do video editing just for that. If you guys want to see my Xena fan vids, they're still up on YouTube, just not this account. Look up the account, Darth Xena, like Darth Vader, but it's Darth Xena, and you'll see 2 Joxer the Mighty. Okay, you'll see 2 Xena fan vids that I did. You'll see my old writing name, because it's not my name, that's in the credits at the end. It's a long story. Very jealous cop husband at the time. Most people don't know I used to be married to a police officer, and he wouldn't let me use my name. That's why my book is written under my pseudonym. And anything I did online, it was safety as well. When you're a cop's wife, you can get targeted. But it was more just paranoid. Xena, you're making my camera jump. So, yeah, if y'all want to see my Xena fan vids, just look up Darth Xena. I think I did it to Haunted by Evanescence, and what's the other song I did it to? I don't remember. There's 2 of them. But Haunted's the one I like the best. I did a 24 fan vid too with Bullet with a Name, but that kept getting pulled for copyright. It's funny because none of the Xena ones have, which are to copyrighted songs, but the Jack Bauer one did. I don't even know like where this was going. So I learned to do video editing just because of that. So there really is an unbroken line from Xena, not that Xena, not the Beagle, Xena the warrior princess, to here. Gauntlet. JJ looked it up. Oh, actually, Gauntlet's really good too. I loved both of those. I cannot tell you how long. It took about 50, 60 hours each to make each of those videos. Using Adobe Premiere Elements. God, back in that house in Florida. I like both of them. You'll see I did good transitions. You'll see I did a good job with them. Anyway, used to be huge. I still am a huge Xena fan, but you know, very unhappy. Nice fantasy world. That's why I have the Xena costume. For those of you who wonder, that Xena costume is authentic. It was made by a costume designer in California. I do not even want to tell you how much that costs, but I've worn it a ton of times. Went to Fantasy Fest in Key West. I'm a huge Xena fan. Okay. So that brings us to where we are now. There's these weird things. I learned how to sew just because I wanted to make rooster tabletops for Via de Cristo. I will learn whole new skill sets just because I'm obsessed on one thing. You know, it's crazy. But these past few days, so I gotta get back to what Stephen Nikala was saying. My God, this is ranty. But you learn a lot more about me in these, don't you? So Stephen Nikala went and he said, you know, a lot of people have been talking tonight about passion. You know, passion for the party, passion for liberty, all of that. And he brought back something I already knew. But, you know, if you go back through the root words and everything, I'm not going to give you the whole Wikipedia thing of what passion means. It isn't just your drive and your love for something. That's all people think about now. But Christians particularly know that the word is loaded with a lot more meaning. It's a sacrificial love and drive that is incomplete without a lot of pain. It's like, you know, almost like giving birth. So if people are wondering why, like, the crucifixion and all that is called the Passion of the Christ, a lot of people don't understand that because we don't use that word today that way. But that is the original meanings of it. We've kind of watered it down. And when Stephen said that, I got gut punched, man, because I was like, ooh, that got me. But it put a lot more meaning on the past 6 months. Because people certainly, they've certainly seen me go through a lot of pain, but I've never lost the love as well. And I got the opportunity to channel it into helping other people. And it just, that right there, it was just like my life experiences made me now understand that word in a way. And I'm sure parents, you know, I don't have kids, understood it a lot earlier than me. Because, you know, kids can be joy and a lot of pain. And I know I kind of alluded to like this kind of understanding before, which was right after the New Hampshire thing, where I did a lot of quoting of the Apostle Paul and things like that, where, you know, Paul was talking about, you know, everything he did for the churches, that was his loyalty. And he was towards the end of his life and the end of his efforts, and he had given everything. And he said, I am even now being poured out as a drink offering. And that too, that expression right there encapsulates the, older meaning of the word passion. But I found that I just substituted that word for, right now, my favorite expression, which has been my favorite expression for a long time now, what we started with. Just find what you love and let it kill you. That's passion. And I've never understood it until these past, let's say a year. It's been less than a year. I feel like an entirely different person. I really do. I feel like an entirely different person, irrevocably changed. In a traumatic way, but, you grow through. You can either let trauma destroy you, or you can grow through it. And it's not always a choice, I realize, but as much as it can be a choice. And I did a little bit of a LP retrospective on the past 6 months for my radio show this weekend. It briefly mentions New Hampshire, Delaware, Massachusetts. JJ, you're in it. I don't mention anyone by name because I didn't have consent to do that. But everyone who gets mentioned, actually I did mention Nolan by name because I said it's rumored that the chair of New Hampshire is a homeless guy. But even, I wanted to do this show now because, again, getting very introspective as we're heading towards what everyone kept assuring me. Just wait till Reno and you're gonna get vindicated and all of this. I hope so. But there's no guarantees. So again, made me very introspective, and I've had a really rough 3 days. People think, except for the people that know me well, and some of them are in chat. When I mean know me well, people have talked with me. It doesn't require even meeting, but a lot of personal interactions, person to person. No, I know I have this reputation. I'm a girl with a reputation of just like being this hard as nails, tough broad. And nothing could be further from the truth. At all. I'm not brave in the traditional sense of the word. I am scared a lot. And I'm not tough. I am not tough at all in the traditional sense of toughness either. It takes virtually nothing to make me cry, as JJ has found out, but you were mean. But people who believe this caricature because either I found, I don't know what it is in people, and I'm sure I do it too, where we put these people, like, we want our villains, and then we create the villain, and then we find a person that kind of fits it, and no matter what evidence you see to the contrary, you make it fit the villain you've already created. Because sometimes when people either send me screenshots, because I really curate my life. Like, I don't see half of the crap that's said about me, because I don't need that. But every once in a while, when I catch a glimpse of it or somebody sends me stuff, I'm like, who's that person they're talking about? Because it's not me. Okay. I guess you need an antagonist to keep you going, and you've created this one around me for some reason, okay, go on. Let me give you an example. Someone sent me some screenshots from a group I don't go to. That's the LNC Business Discuss group on Facebook. Not going to name names. Anyone who saw this conversation, well, because this is a recent conversation, where some people were talking about the 5 states right now that have signed, that are now part of Region 1, who knows what Region will be, that have signed an agreement. And when people found out that I helped write the agreement, the speculation, and just without even seeing it, the assumptions that were made were crazy when compared to the reality. If you go read the agreement, you would think, because I haven't been happy with our Region 1, that, I get to help write an agreement, I'm going to make this a punitive piece of document so that we'll never get another linguini again. But I didn't. I actually put in extra protections for the regional representative in our new agreement. And outlined everybody's responsibilities more clearly. But in our new region, and I don't know if this has ever been in an agreement before, there's certain ways to remove a regional rep, just like there always is. If the state chairs do it by vote, they get all of the due process protections of Roberts. I think that's unheard of in a regional agreement. And considering how much I did not appreciate the representation we got last time, one would think I would make it easier to remove a regional rep. Nope. Made it pretty tough for state chairs to do it because I believe in decentralization. And added a route for members to do it, which doesn't have the same process, because I think members can remove representatives for a much lower bar, because it's the members. You're putting it down to its lowest common denominator. I wish people would actually read this agreement. It outlines the responsibilities that the state affiliates have to each other, because everyone forgets about that. Next, the responsibilities that the state chairs have to the regional rep. People forget about that. Last, at least in priority, I can't remember if it's in actual order of the documents, it might have been switched around, is the responsibilities of the region rep to the states, including if the state chairs gang up on you, you get full due process because you were elected by delegates, not by the state chairs. And we put in a conscience clause. We expect the region rep to vote the will of the region. However, if doing so would violate the regional rep's conscience, they will not be punished if they abstain. That we would never ask somebody to vote against their conscience. So what it says in there is if you feel you just cannot, in good conscience, vote the will of the region, either abstain without consequence, or if the regional alternate is willing to vote the will of the region, step aside and let them. I do think this regional agreement is light years ahead, and it's very comprehensive. And for these people to be talking about it, I'm like, there's something wrong with you people, really, that you need to construct a villain that bears no resemblance to reality. So, I don't even know where it's part of this whole thing. You know, until I've gone through all of this, I might not have been able to think of all of that and want to protect even people. It's like free speech. Protection, free speech isn't for speech you like. That's easy. Due process isn't for people you like. You need to make sure you give due process to the people you don't like. And that's why, thinking of the regional rep we have now, who I don't like, who screwed me, my response was to protect the next regional rep from what happened to me. Because no matter how I feel about that gentleman, I would never do to him what he did to me. None of them. Never. Never. I'm not a vengeful person. So, but where I'd said these last 3 days have been very difficult. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this well. I do see some Massachusetts people in here who I think saw my struggle a lot closer than anyone else did, though they may not have really understood, because I didn't really express it. I get very quiet when I'm having a hard time. Like, even with Wayne, I'm like, just please, I don't want to talk. But losing the first Massachusetts appeal was tough, because even though I stand by every decision I recommended, you always second guess yourself. I cannot imagine being an attorney representing people that like could get sentenced to death and you'll lose their case. I don't think I could do that with how I felt after just, and I knew that was step one, but I was kicking myself. But then we did the second one, and one day I'll let you guys know what was going on that weekend. JJ knows. Mike now knows. The fact that I wrote that weekend is like me doing the platform survey because that's a bear too, when I had COVID. But, so the new appeal went out. This is all relevant. It's getting to the passion thing. And I'm hoping you guys I like conversations. Then the night of the credentials committee happened, and I wasn't there. I was at something else. And I heard that the illegitimate board moved to rescind the expulsions. Let's not get into whether you can rescind expulsions. You can't. But let's not get pedantic. And when I heard that, I'm like, doesn't make a difference. Like, my cold logical side came in. Doesn't make a difference. The appeal still is where it is. But I took that because I got my cold logical side. Then comes the squishy side that says, is this, I assumed, because I like, oh yeah, Ryan. And one thing, sorry, ADHD, one thing you'll notice in the platform survey, I didn't title the proposals. They titled the proposals on bylaws with their own words. Committee transparency is a title, yet it adds in executive session for any reason. Someone make it make sense. How is adding executive session for any reason committee transparency? So I didn't title the things on the bylaw survey. I just said amend plank whatever. Told you why the committee wanted to do it. And then I trust you guys. I wanted you to know our argument, and then after that, remove us. The titles on that survey of bylaws, I'm not saying it was intentional at all. You want to know what I think happened? Because they kind of said this happened in the beginning, but I don't think they saw the implications. They had more proposals that they combined. And in combining them, it created poison pills. And we'll talk about how poison pill does not mean bad intent on the part of the people who created it. I know an LNC member lost his ever-loving mind thinking that's what that means. That isn't what that means. It can mean that, but it doesn't have to. But anyway, we are getting off track here. So when that rescission came in, first after saying, doesn't matter, responses are still due on the 17th. Nothing changes with the appeal. Nothing changes with credentialing. However, then I step back and say, let's put the rules aside a second. Let's put convention aside. I always believe in people over politics. And I believe most people are good. So a spark of hope ignited in me. I'm like, is this their way of trying to admit some wrongdoing without admitting it? And that's what I chose to believe. Unlike some people say, I always choose to believe the worst. No, I don't. So I chose to believe that. And outside of this whole parliamentary stuff, I started to think, if that is what they're doing, these are all people that are going to be in the same state years from now. They're going to be seeing each other at libertarian meetings long after this. Is there anything now that maybe a little movement has happened? That some grace could be extended? In other words, was it possible to give them an honorable retreat that allowed them to save face? So here's what I'm thinking. Hey, I'm talking with a bunch of people. You don't have to do this. But how about, as a show of good faith, you offer this or you offer that? You don't have to. But maybe that will help bring peace. Maybe that will mend relationships. And I had bunches of conversations with people. And they all know this is where I was going. Even though none of these decisions are mine, when I'm helping somebody as a parliamentarian, they know right up front, I'm going to tell them what the rules say. And then I'm going to tell them, within a libertarian context, this is how I think they apply, though that isn't what the black letter says. But mixed in with that, I do have the den mother instinct. I know I got in trouble for saying that before. But when I get close to people I'm an advocate for, the mother instinct kicks in. Anyone when I was Region 1 rep knows how I It'd be like, don't you talk no shit about my states. I was a mama bear. So, when I saw that, I immediately said, okay, we're winning the rules thing. Now how can we win the human thing? Can we human now? Now that we're done with this, can we start humaning? Though it's not ultimately my decision. And then to find out, the next day, they started procedures and threats to re-expel the people they just let back in. Allegedly. Because I don't think they're real. Like, I'm just saying from their point of view. And honestly, I was devastated by that. I told you all that in a stream before. I've still been processing. I'm not even in that state. And I'm like, a little, I'm a very like, I'm a humanist in the like what I believe the original sense of the word. Like, right now, humanism kind of like gets put in opposition to people of faith. But meanwhile, like if you go, now I know this guy ended up being like a freaked out zealot, but whatever that King Henry one, the one who killed all his wives, Thomas More, who he ended up beheading him too, but he was deeply, deeply religious Catholic, but also called himself a humanist. And I think libertarianism is a humanistic, wants human flourishing. And I just don't see how people can do that to each other. Sometimes the inhumanity of man against man I can't take it. Because I need to develop better, like, shields, I guess. Because I took it worse, I think the people I'm helping in Massachusetts, they expected it. I didn't. And a tiny bit of my faith in humanity died that day. But that's passion, isn't it? To be vulnerable, to believe, to work for what you believe in. I'll get over it, and I'll learn to be a little wiser. I have a big, when it comes to people, naive streak that runs through me, where I'm not cautious enough. That's how the LNC removed me, because I wasn't cautious enough to not tell them that Stephen was leaving. Because it wouldn't occur to me ever to exploit that to somebody else. When I win, I want to win fair and square. It would never occur to me. And it didn't occur to me that the rescission was a smokescreen. That it wasn't genuine. How in the world they think this helps their case, I have no idea. I'm not saying the people who did this are this, But that move to do that is a sociopathic move. Like that takes a little specialness. But that brought all of this, what Stephen Nikela said about passion. And I learned that again this past year. And I'll probably keep repeating the same things over and over and over because, again, laugh at me all you want, haters. What happened to me in September was traumatic. So, people often ask me, like, what keeps you going? Like, how do you have all this energy? I think actually some people in Massachusetts asked me this. Oh, no, maybe it was somebody in Delaware. And I said righteous indignation. I'm fueled by righteous indignation, but that's not a lie, is it? I can't tolerate injustice. So, you know, I often this year, you know, with just helping where I can. And JJ, you're going to come into the story now if you're still here. You came into it a little before, but things have come very, like, again, I'm introspecting, looking back. And people often ask me, you know, or, you know, we can never repay you or thank you. And I go, well, you don't need to thank me because I'm doing what I think is right. But there is something you can do. You can pay it forward. And I tell everybody that who thinks I helped them, you want to thank me? If you're in a position of knowledge or superior, you have an advantage, and you see people being victimized, predated upon by people in positions of authority or privilege, help them. But JJ, you're actually directly responsible for a lot of that too. Because you came out of the blue. When you saw this going on with me, you didn't really know me. We knew each other from Cultivar 1R and comments. Mike and I were like, who is this guy who all of a sudden is really interested in this show? Like, it takes a special to be that interested in Roberts. And I don't know what's happened in your life that made you just want to step forward and help somebody. But it meant a lot. And I think without even knowing it, you instilled in me a sense of debt. Not to you. I am grateful to you. But to pass it on. And yeah, I don't think I really comprehended that so much until, again, this past week, really thinking about it. When people write me and say they would have given up, but for me, I might have given up, but for you. I'm pretty damn stubborn, though, so I might not have. But I certainly wouldn't have been as... I mean, we should have won that case. And if I had written it myself, like that wouldn't have. And same thing with D.L. Cummings. The way he stepped up to do the defense. Never underestimate the effect you can have on people's lives. That 20 chain reactions away from that. Like there's this unbroken causality chain. That it multiplies. Like the fishes and loaves. I will always bring it back to biblical analogies. And thank you, Datmo. And I've had a lot of people come up to me at conventions and say things like that. People I've never met who said, you inspired me to do this or to do that. You know, if this woman out in Colorado, that at least in the peer group, like, was fighting against the odds. What probably everyone else saw was that I was going to lose. I didn't. That's the way liberty is going to win. I'm just convinced of it. If we're not in this to human better, and all of us aren't going to be at the same place, and humaning better doesn't mean, like some of the woke means, that you point fingers at those you just think aren't as good. You think that's going to change them? It's not. If you model the kindness and grace on a human level. Now, I know some people go, oh my God, I just can't believe you're saying that. You're one of the meanest people I know. Not on a human level, I'm not. I may criticize actions. Just like I don't get all flipped out if people criticize my actions. But I never seek to destroy anybody. And it's unfathomable to me that people do. So it's been an incredible 6 months that's left me forever changed. It's left me with battle scars. Certainly. But I think it's changed me for the better. It's made me even more determined. And that gets back to the topic. And thank you, Fina. You are such a sweet soul. It brings me back to the topic, though. There's no passion without pain. If you're really that sold out to something, like, I don't mean sold out in the bad way. I mean, like, I mean sold out in the, like, I'm sold out for liberty, that kind of way, and it doesn't hurt, you haven't put, and not everything has to. I mean, there's some things you just might like. But if you think something, this is my thing in life, and it doesn't hurt sometimes or even a lot, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. So there's a lot of growth that can happen through these sorts of things. Not that I'd wish what happened with me, or the emotions and the betrayal and all of that. Not that I would ever wish that on anyone else. But I don't think I'd want to be a different person now, and that was the way to get there. Some ways, some growth, some perspectives, I'm now absolutely convinced can never be gained without going through pain. And there's an expression in my faith that says, what men mean for evil, God means for good. And I've really seen this past year. I am struggling for words, because this is, if you can't tell, like, I'm going through a thing. And it's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not depressed or anything like that. Not at all. Like, I'm in a great place, like, in general. I guess it's just waxing very philosophical. Particularly as we're coming up on the great event. You know, that everyone keeps telling me, and just wait. Well, it's here now, almost. And honestly, I'm terrified. I keep saying I'm prepared for any outcome. No, I'm not. I'll be okay either way. But I'm not prepared for any outcome. That's a brave face I'm putting on it. I'm scared. But we'll see. This too shall pass. But I do think the past year's made me a better person. And not on the superficial level that so much today is judged on. And by superficial, I don't mean how you look and all that. That's one thing. But on the, oh, but you still criticize people. Yeah, I do. But anyone who's my friend knows, if you're my friend and I have a problem with you, I will not talk about it publicly until I've hashed it out with you privately. Even Will McVeigh will tell you that. When the whole Delaware thing was happening, And I was trying to figure it out, and I got him on the phone, and he was telling me everything he did was right. I said, okay, well, now that I hear your side, I need to do some research. It was on parliamentary questions. Need to look at your documents. And I'll tell you what I think. But here's the promise I make you. If I think you done screwed this up, I will call you and tell you first. You won't have to hear it on social media first. Now, I may talk about it with other people in private, but not blast it all over. So anyone thinks like I'm a blast first? No, usually not. Now, once the person's no longer my friend and they've already just proven that it can't be trusted, then nah. And also, let me also give a little bit of exception here. Because I know there's people ready to pounce. Well, you didn't do this here. I'm not perfect. I don't even live my own principles perfectly. There's also a difference. Because I know there's some LNC members watching this going, you disagreed with me publicly without... Yeah, because you're an elected representative. That's different. I'm talking about friend, like friend to friend. Not having a shitty vote on the LNC. When you chose that position, you chose that you could be criticized. Sorry. If you can't handle that, baby, you need to find something else to do. But I guess the bottom line that I'm getting to is ultimately like a place of peace and thankfulness. Not thankful to them. You know, ultimately as a person of faith, it's thankful to God. But also for the wonderful relationships that never would have happened. And the exposing of fake relationships that really weren't there that I thought were. And I'll tell you once again, Wayne is a saint, man. He's a frickin' saint to put up with me. And I don't mean put up with me like in that way. I don't mean like put up with me like in the Amber Heard way. I mean put up with me in my, no, I need quiet. I'm writing the second appeal. You gotta leave me alone until this is done. You know, the weird things like that. The most patient, tolerant man. Now, before we go, and yeah, it's been, what's it, an hour? That's about normal for me. But I want to see if there's any questions, anything people want to share. That thing about Snowden, though, with how they're how the LNC doesn't see the absolute irony of this, but even more particularly, how Nick doesn't. There was a state affiliate. I'm not going to say which one. Because again, as you've noticed, it's not... I had to get a lot of anger out of my system before, but I prefer now, the principles matter more than the specific person that did it first. Matt, I don't know what you mean by Snowden move. I think it goes back to the what men mean for evil, God means for good thing. People act like there are mutually exclusive positions here, and there aren't. You can be thrilled. Absolutely. The man is a legend. You can be thrilled that he's going to be speaking at our convention and still think the moves that got him there weren't right. And I find it especially offensive in this case. I don't like people being used as pawns ever. But when you're talking about a guy exactly, Dustin, it takes the joy out of it. And when you're talking, like, of all people to use as a pawn, it's the guy that's been screwed over in ways I cannot even comprehend. It's like that story I told with the drunk driver who hit a carload of cops. What could make it worse? He hit a carload of cops filming the show Cops. I don't like anyone being used. But using Snowden, to me, is just particularly offensive. But I would never want the appearance to be scuttled because libertarians want to hear from him. I wish he were speaking to everybody, though, because only at most a couple hundred people can go to a breakfast. He needs to be speaking to the whole convention. And not used as a... No. That ain't a right way to treat him. It isn't. But, you know what? I could just shake my head and go, okay. I think Ken Molman had it exactly right in what he said. Now, a lot of people know that I text friendly LNC members all the time. I call them. I have email chains. I didn't talk to Ken about this at all. And Ken doesn't follow me on Twitter. I was saying the exact same thing on Twitter, but obviously in a lot fewer words because of Twitter. Ken and I had no conversations. And then when I saw what he originally posted, I don't think I have ever been prouder of an LNC member. And then to see the snotty responses he got back, embarrassing. And for that other LNC member to be acting like mature adults know that there are always different things put in the same time spot. That's not the issue. That was never the issue. How about a little fire, straw man? That was never the issue that Ken was raising. That might have been the issue other people were raising. But Ken wasn't raising that issue. Ken was raising the issue of what a bad look and utter embarrassment it is for the Libertarian Party of all parties to use or allow to be used this man as a pawn. Because he didn't know all of this. If he knew about the motivation and the attacking of people and said, nope, I'm good, I wouldn't, okay. But I believe in informed consent. And informed consent means you tell people all the pertinent details. And that's a pertinent detail. And I can tell you, if I were on the convention committee still, well, I wasn't a voting member before anyway. That wouldn't have, if I had, like, my personal say, would have been, this ain't getting out of committee. You don't allow people to be used that way. You don't do that because it's just a shitty thing to do to a person. And you don't do it because it's a shitty look for this party. So, where was I? I didn't even want to get in the... I'm going to probably do a whole other thing on the Snowden thing. I not really... Just, it came up in chat. But I am so proud of Ken Molman. And the way he's getting treated in response. Like, you don't have to agree with him. But you're not even giving him the respect to respond to what he's actually saying. When you're having a dispute, you want to know if your opponent respects you, is if they listen and actually answer what you said. Not the agenda they want to get. That's not respect. You can answer what they said and then get to the agenda you want to do. And then that person, if they respect you back, will recognize that you honored them by addressing their actual concerns. And then they go and address your actual concerns. And that's how actual exchanges happen. It's not happening now. I was wrapping this up. We're getting all on the Snowden thing, and I really don't want to. You guys could do what you want. I don't ever really tell people what they can talk about in comments. But it's kind of off the topic of this thing. But I wanted to show you guys. So, campaign update. That's where I was leaving off. The last thing, where I'm at, there is a spreadsheet. If anyone is curious, that's a donor, which isn't you, certain LNC member that wanted to see it. Yeah, no, you're not one of my donors. I ain't accountable to you. But donors want to see. It's available. And when you look through it, you'll see there's a lot of things I didn't charge on it. Because you'll see. But the last few things. No, Tyler. No. We're not, I can't tell you what to do. But I can tell you if you did that, I'd be pissed off. Because that's just using him some more. He's already been used. It's done. We're not going to treat this man like a ping pong. That's why I hesitated to say anything about this. I do not want his appearance to be scuttled. Exactly, Matthew. To try to get this thing scuttled is using him some more. And throwing into it all the LP members that want to hear from him. And then before you know, all we're doing is using people to get back at people. Somebody needs to just say, okay. Okay. And refuse to escalate. And refuse to play the game. Please don't yank around the feelings of other LP members now that are excited to hear him. It's not their fault that these arrangements are this way. Don't do that. Can we stop doing the eye for an eye thing, please? Okay, so what I'm left fundraising for. He does know now, Tyler. He knows now. But he's not competing, Matthew. He's being used as a weapon. This isn't a competition. But it is what it is. It's done. Let's refuse to escalate. Let's lay down our arms and say, okay, please. I will be so disappointed if anyone who counts himself a good friend of mine or supporter is successful in getting him to cancel. Don't. An eye for an eye just leaves two men blind. Back to my campaign. This is why I didn't want to get into this Snowden thing. It kind of, to me now, just kind of diminished everything. We got into some big LP controversy, and I'm done with those games. And I think this affects me a lot because I get used a lot as a weapon. And I don't like it either. So maybe I have some empathy going on here. I don't like being used that way either. When people are like, well, what do you think about X? When I know they don't really care. They just know that I'm a public voice. And they want to use me and my opinion to beat somebody else up over the head. I get used like that all the time. And I hate it. I'm not going to look anymore about any of the Snowden crap. No. Tyler, he knows. He's been told. It's over. I'm not doing any other shows on this. On that thing. Talked about it enough this time. And I have to take a shower. Because I even feel like now, I'm not saying you guys are doing this. I'm just telling you the way I feel. Now, even the debate over him being used is using him to get at the person who used him. If that makes sense. Oh, this man we don't like did something bad and used this guy. So now, let's use the fact that he's been used to get at this guy. This is a never-ending cycle if we don't stop it. Okay. Everyone can, we free to disagree. I've said my piece, and I'm done. I'm not talking about it anymore. Because I just feel dirty. But the last few things. All of the supplies came in. You guys will see those supplies in Reno. They all got shipped out. Someone who's driving. Don't like mentioning names again without permission. Ooh, that was a hefty shifting bill. Shifting bill? Shipping bill. But what do I have in my little paw? Got my mailers in. Now, knowing how sucky the post office is, probably half the people won't get them, but some of you will get them. But what I'm really disappointed by is because of the whole disorganization with the delegate lists. And, I had to fundraise to be able to do this, so it's not all that. I like writing personal notes on my postcards. Like, literally. Last time I wrote a note on everyone's card. All 1,000 and something delegates, plus alternates. I'm not going to have time. I don't mean me personally. There's not going to be enough time to do that, because it took me like a month to do that, and ship. So tomorrow I'm going to print the labels, maybe at least personally sign them. I think the personal touch matters. So what's on here? Guess what this part is? You'll get one in the mail if you're a delegate. It's letting everyone know what the rules are on credentialing. So they have it right in front of them. And this barcode is for the Robert's Rules of Order cheat sheet that everyone loved last time, that I will bring more copies of this time. On the back here is just a little, pitch. There's a new picture Avens O'Brien took in Texas. And here, I've got to finish it tonight because right now, this QR code leads to a half-finished document. But I actually prepared a strategic plan that complements some of the other ones out there for officers that I hope I get to work with. So, hopefully these will get out to you in time. If they don't, I ordered enough to have them out at my table. Remember to let me know if you want the good name badges. We'll be printing those. If somebody, again, don't like mentioning names without permission, who's going to be helping, we're going to stash them over under my table, but it's not like part of my campaign, but it's just that I paid for that spot, so the Convention Oversight Committee can't complain, because they're not going to be happy. They're not going to be happy about this at all. Just like I'm sure they're not going to be too happy about the t-shirts either, but they look great. So what I'm left raising for is, I'd like to bring to convention, well, actually I'd print it there probably, is copies of those Robert's Rules tools that I provided for everyone last time. The cheat sheet, and then the thing on the back that has, 1/2, 2/3, 7/8 thing. And I want to print out copies of the strategic plan for people. So it's quite a bit. It's a decent size copying cost, because what I have left right now that's still raised is paying for the postage. So whether or not I have that additional educational information is going to depend upon this last fundraising push. Okay. I think that's it. This was really the only free night I have. And I thought I had something this night, and then I had it written down on the wrong night. Until I leave. I literally have something scheduled every other night. But you guys know that doesn't stop me from just going live once I get a burr under my saddle and I do 10 streams in one day. Probably will not have time for that, because I also have to get ready the historical preservation display. So I need to get my campaign stuff out of the way and then work on the historical stuff. It's like, God, there's been no rest, but yeah, I got a lot to do. So, I know this conversation tonight was really heavy, and I apologize for getting a little bit exasperated at the end there, but I've got a lot of feels over that whole situation with someone being used. It just super bothers me, and probably not ready yet to have a reasoned, rational discussion, because I'm all up in my feels, and that's not a good time. So apologize for any exasperation. You know, you guys are my friends. So, yeah, that's it for tonight. And Dustin, thank you. Look forward to meeting, so many people in Reno. I'll be, just so you know, ahead with a chicken cut off. I probably won't even remember Reno. I don't remember a lot of the last conventions, but they're so much fun, and hopefully this one will be the same way. I do have some needs besides, donations. I need volunteers who are... Julian, it's been forever. You pop in and out and in and out. You're probably just super busy. I need volunteers to sit at my table for just certain shifts. So if people are going who aren't yet seated with a delegation, or whatever. Otherwise, it's going to be empty a lot of the times. I'll try to be there, obviously, as much as possible. The Historical Preservation Committee table needs volunteers as well. And I'll be, there'll be a national email, pretty sure, about, not for my campaign, obviously, but for the Historical Preservation table. So I need volunteers for that. Volunteers, always needed. I've noticed I've gotten into this weird habit of doing this, like pulling my hair back. That is not a habit I had before, and I don't like it. So, that's it, I believe. I'm trying to make sure there isn't anything else I wanted to cover. I don't think there is. I am so busy I cannot even tell you. It's always like this before convention. But I've never before convention had to deal with writing appeals and whatever. And I'm not complaining at all. It's greatly rewarding. But in a way, I guess it's good. Because, it takes you outside of yourself. Otherwise, I'd probably be worried sick. But I will see you there. All of this trauma in the party will pass. It will get better. Will the first LNC meeting after convention be streamed? I don't know. It should be. Well, streamed. I don't know. It'll be recorded, I'm sure. I don't know, Tyler, actually. I don't know. I hope so. I hope the one before it will be streamed as well. And I'm going to try to stream the platform committee meeting. And what else is going on? Oh my God. It does, Julian. Verdad. It does. People have been saying that a really, really long time, and then just nobody does it. It really, we used to. In the historical stuff, almost every one of our brochures, we also had a Spanish version. Honestly, I think one of our staffers, like, as we start hiring more staffers, it should be a goal to have a staffer that's fluent. Richard Brown says, usually nothing of substance happens at the post-convention LNC meeting. I disagree. But what I consider substance, other people might consider, like Ambien. The executive committee gets appointed and voted on. Well, appointed's the wrong word. The non-officer members of the executive committee are voted on, because that committee has to be populated immediately. Thank you, Tyler. And I'm sorry I got so exasperated with you earlier, and now I'm ridden with guilt. Oh, Dustin had a good question. We probably start to need doing shows on that. Let me think about this for a second. Let me tell you, COVID messed up my head, man. I sometimes have to, I forget where I'm at. It's getting a lot, it's not just COVID though, it's stress, lack of sleep. And in the trash? Did I get that right? In trash? On Basura? Am I correct? You guys know my favorite, not all Spanish people or Spanish speakers. There's a particular, it's very localized, I think, but there's a Spanish idiom I love. Oh my God. And this idiom applies so well to the situation I don't want to talk about anymore. El carro entonado, todos son caminos. I love that expression. I don't know if any of the Spanish speakers in the audience are familiar with it, because I think it's pretty localized idiom. But I've said it on the show before, the literal translation is to a crazy car or to an out-of-control car, all things are roads. And of course, idioms, you know, you have to kind of explain it, but basically what it means is to a ruthless person. Everything and anything is used. And boy, does that fit, doesn't it? El carro entonado, todos son caminos. Favorite Spanish expression ever. All right, I'm going to get going, get working on my strategic plan. And yeah, get ready. This can't be over soon enough. Yeah, I guess it's just like to a hammer, everything is a nail. But I like the mental imagery of just like, you know, running everybody over. Like, I don't like that imagery. But I mean, to me, it speaks more to me. And I'm sure there'll be some, I hate to tell you this, Smoking Llama, but I'm sure there'll be some more drama llama stuff going on. I hope not. I want everything to be over for you guys. And I want a happy ending like we got for Delaware. You don't know how bad I want that for you. And if it... We're on the right side, but if it doesn't happen, but I believe it will. I'm going to feel like I failed. But we are. It might take longer than we want. The wheels of justice grind fine and slow. Buenos dias. Oh, I wanted to answer that question. God, thank you, Richard. So, Dustin, I do have training videos for delegates. I never finished them because I got unceremoniously removed and it was being used. I was like, no, I'm not doing these videos. I'm going to do them on my own. You know, I was doing it for the LP where it was very... To me, they ended up kind of boring because I was doing it for their channel, so I couldn't be me entirely. Like, I had to really worry about, you know, if I said something that, you know, was a little off color, and you know me, that's my humor. So those videos are for how to get... they're not for being at convention. They're for how to get to be nominated as a delegate to begin with. So, Dustin, top 3 things. Top 3 things. Okay. First, if there's somebody friendly in your delegation that looks like that have been around a while, take them aside and ask them questions. Most people who've been in the party a while want to impart their knowledge. And you will hear some stories about past conventions that will be worth their weight in gold. They'll be very entertaining. And, yeah, we have a lot of jewels in this party that, like, we don't preserve our institutional memory, and it's actually in people too. So if there's someone friendly in your delegation that's got a lot of experience, they'll love to tell you things and teach you. So that's number 1. Number 2, don't forget to have a great time. It can get so busy, but take the time to don't get so caught up in whatever high drama is going on at the moment. And number 3, don't, okay, a lot of people will disagree with me on this one. When it comes to bylaws, If you're even a tiny bit uncertain about a proposal because they haven't convinced you, don't vote for it. And that's not just for this year. This is for any year. Bylaws are super, super important. And if you don't think you can vote responsibly on them, it's better not to vote, or vote no if you feel, meh. The worst argument in the world to be swayed by is, let's just pass this to get it in there, and we could tweak it in 2 years. Unless it's something minor. But I've heard this said about in my opinion, people of good faith disagree with me. I'm not trying to demonize anybody. Proposal number 16, I find absolutely horrifying. And that's the let's let the LNC expel people provision. And I've heard some people say it's not perfect, but let's just get it in there. And we could fix any, if we see that it didn't quite work out the way we wanted, we could fix it in 2 years. When you're talking about expulsion, oopsies means real people get hurt. So, that's kind of, bylaws are super, super important. Platform's fun, but bylaws are more important. And you can really mess up an organization with that. Sometimes it's better just to sit and listen and learn. But if there's ones that you feel strongly about, certainly vote. But listen carefully to the debates. Even if it's somebody at the mic that you don't like, they could still have a good argument. So listen very, very carefully. And if it's not yet right, do not vote for it. Nothing should go into our bylaws half-baked. That happens way too many times. Not so much at national. Happens a lot more at state level, but it can happen at national. And particularly if people's rights are being violated. Because you don't play dice with people. But if it's something to do with, I'm trying to think of one on there. Well, the one on there called Committee Transparency actually isn't about transparency. But one that it's okay, and let me give you an example of one it would be okay to say, let's get it in there and we can tweak it because it doesn't involve potentially hurting people. A while ago, the LNC used to operate very much in secret. And Chuck Moulton was able to get a public read-only email list into the bylaws. And it wasn't perfect. But that didn't hurt anybody. And it was better. Before we had complete opacity, now we got a little bit of transparency. Could it be better? Yeah, but you didn't violate anyone's rights or potentially hurt anybody. But when you start talking about giving different duties to officers, expelling people, getting rid of Robert's Rules of Order, don't, or kiss members' rights goodbye. And I know they're couching a proposal for, no, it's not really getting, yes, it is. Yeah. Every time you hear a bylaws proposal, ask yourself, how does this affect member rights? Nothing scares me more than, well, we could just trust the LNC, right? And this one, and it's not just because of this LNC. I've always felt that way. And I feel that way about state boards. Power to the people, not at the top. The more that the members control the party, the better. In my opinion. Now, you might not agree with that. Now I'm giving you like kind of my presuppositions. H. Reardon, there's not much chance of there not being a quorum. I keep hearing talk of this, and I think it's foolishness. Because everyone keeps thinking the quorum is 50%. It's not. It's 40%. At the end of business, we might have that problem. There is no group, in my opinion right now, that has enough people on their side to break quorum. And thank God. If some group gets all pissy and leaves, they just left control of the party to the people that stayed. I do not anticipate a quorum problem. All right, that's it. I'm going to go. I heavy time, but I really did enjoy it. Yeah, I like the human stuff much more than the political game stuff. So I thank you all, and yeah, I got to get to work. Otherwise, I'd just sit here and stall all night because I like hanging out with you more than I like working. From my heart, tears.
What you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to